All right, man, peace. You know, brothers, if you follow professional sports, sometimes you'll come across a transcendent athlete or an exemplary performer who's actually able to become better as a professional than they were as an amateur. Even standout amateurs, like for example, Michael Jordan was phenomenal in college, but there were no signs that he was going to be this in the pros. According to Luka Doncic, the standout rookie of the Dallas Mavericks, it's easier to score in the NBA than it was in the European League. Now, there may be some reasons for that. Rule changes, different configuration of the basketball court. The defense is prohibited from being overly aggressive in the NBA, maybe more than it is in the European League. Either way, he claims that it's easier to score in the NBA than it was in the league overseas. So, of course, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in. In addition to that, Max Kellerman is going to make another one of his hyperbolic assertions about Kristaps Porzingis, and he believes that Kristaps is going to become maybe the best player in the entire NBA playing alongside Luka Doncic.
You want to talk about your squad?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Okay, let's do it. So Luka Doncic scored 13 of his game-high 28 points as the Mavs rallied to beat the Blazers. Doncic said after the game, it's easier to score in the NBA compared to Europe because the court is bigger and the 3-second rule. Will?
Yes.
When I see Luka Doncic play, all I see is a right-handed James Harden. The boy has a lot of swag, a lot of trickery, a lot of step-back jump shots, and a hell of a green light. That's what I see when I watch Luka Doncic play. I see a right-handed James Harden. He also, like James Harden, is not a particularly explosive athlete, but he knows how to get his shot off in the crowd. He also knows how to draw fouls.
Who will be the best player on the Mavs? Is it Luka or newly acquired Kristaps Porzingis?
You know, I'm not quite sure what the answer to this question is going to be. If I had to take a gander at this question immediately, I would say Luka Doncic, because this is a guard-oriented league that these players are playing in today. It's no longer big man-oriented. But the reason why that question is so pertinent is because I've touched on this in another video. It would not surprise me if there's a fracture or a fissure in their relationship, that being Doncic and Porzingis, as they try to figure out who the quote-unquote alpha on the team is supposed to be. So watch for that.
It's not close. It's Luka. Let me tell you something. Luka's so good that they traded the entire starting lineup. Everybody talked about LeBron getting his starting lineup traded. There's not one left for Luka. No. It's all four guys around him are new, and you know what they figured out?
Of course, because all those black guys that were on the team when Luka first got there, they were not willing to fully submit to Doncic. The reason why they traded all those guys away is because Mark Cuban was letting everybody on the team know, you're a background dancer to Luka Doncic. This is the Luka Doncic show. That's all this is. They're going to run pick and roll with Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis. All you black players, just play defense. Every once in a while, you'll get a wide open 3-point shot. That's your job. You're a 3-and-D guy. That's it. If you come in here to make waves, we're shipping your ass out of here.
I think there was some calculation. You know, maybe we'll end up in the top 5 because we saved the pick, top 5 protected with Atlanta. You're finding out you can't tank with Luka.
No,
he's too good.
He's too good.
He's too good to tank.
I'll say this, Doncic already has a better post-up game than James Harden does.
This guy sees the floor. I like what he said about the court being bigger in the NBA because I actually think it illustrates what's so special about him. The game is slow mentally for him.
Yeah.
He sees it so easily, Richard. He can put a guy on his back. He can blow by him.
Well, he's basically been playing professional basketball since he was 13 years old. Those kids over there in Europe, they started at 13, 14 years old, and they're playing around grown men. So I would expect him to see the game much quicker than many of these players in the NBA, at least for right now. And once again, with the way in which the NBA favors their perimeter stars, he's going to dominate. The game is built for the ball handlers to dominate the game.
He can step back. His vision is amazing, and there's no level of whatever you see in Porzingis that's going to put him above what Luka is.
And people don't... I kind of at first felt a little disrespected. It was like, oh, don't say that this is easier than Europe, that the talent. No, but what he's trying to illustrate, and I'll give you a short example. I average 11 points a game in college, right? My junior year. And then I averaged 10 points a game my rookie year. It wasn't that the talent was different. It was just the game is different. The way it's played is different. It is offensively friendly, right? And so here versus Europe, the game is easier because you allow offense. It's much harder to play defense here than it is over in Europe. So I get what he's saying. But to your point, like, Doncic is the guy. He is the man. And if you play him 40 minutes a night, which they are because they want to give him experience, all of a sudden you look up and you have a chance to win the game, right?
Let me say this very quickly also. Not only is Doncic the quote-unquote guy, He's also a burgeoning golden boy for the NBA. Okay, so watch for him to be extremely protected, and there's nothing wrong with that. He's an asset that the NBA wants to see mature over the course of the next 15 years. So they're fully invested in the Luka Doncic experience in Dallas.
Right, like that's not the way it normally goes.
On the Trailblazers, on the Blazers.
Yeah.
Doncic, let me just say this. He's the best player taken in the draft, including Ben Simmons, in the last 3 years. He's a franchise.
That's a bit of a stretch to say that Luka Doncic is already better than Ben Simmons. That's a huge stretch. Ben Simmons is faster than him, a better athlete than him, taller than him, a better rebounder, and a better passer. Now, what Luka has, obviously, is he's a much better jump shooter. But I think that Ben Simmons will affect his team when it comes to winning more than Luka Doncic will. But we'll find out over the course of the next 10 years, assuming that this society is around for another 10 years.
Franchise player. He reminds me of the way Tobias Harris is fitting on the Sixers and the way Boogie is fitting on the Warriors. Like, boy, that's the best version of what that could have been.
Yeah.
All the hype about Luka, he's the best version of what you could have hoped for. He's a franchise player. I
would agree with that.
love watching him play too. Okay, that.
Yes, he is very fun to watch play because you don't always feel like he's just going to shoot the basketball. I compare him to James Harden, but I compare him to a far more immature version of James Harden. Maybe the James Harden that first came to the Rockets. He's not as good as James Harden was when James Harden first came to the Rockets, but they have a very similar playing style. As we can see, Luka Doncic is right-handed, James Harden is left-handed. That's basically one of the few differences that I can see.
That said, if this works out, and I'm assuming health for Porzingis, okay?
Yes.
I understand there's a health risk. He's 7'3".
That's a huge assumption.
He's been injured. Assuming health for Porzingis, this is could be like a younger version in a way of Magic and Kareem, in a sense, right? Like, Magic was the Kareem.
The only difference is that Magic and Kareem had an extensive history of winning. Neither one of these players have an extensive history of winning unless we want to transplant over to the European League.
Charisma, he was the engine of the team, just like we had the Westbrook-Paul George argument. But the best player on the team when Kareem was still in his prime was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. In terms of the rankings all time, who's the greatest player ever? Magic does not get mentioned at number one. Kareem does.
Well, Magic does not get mentioned at number one by people like yourself who try to marginalize the impact that Magic Johnson had. But Magic Johnson, to me, is a player who could be considered as arguably the greatest player in the history of the NBA. I wouldn't put him there, but I think that he's on the outer fringes of the players who will be considered for that title. He won 5 championships, and even though he may not have been the best player on the Lakers, save for the first 5 years of his career, he was the most impactful, no doubt about it.
Kareem gives Jordan and LeBron, everyone, the best run for number one. This is what I'm saying about Porzingis. Yes, it'll be Doncic's team. Yes, it'll be the alpha and all those things. If Porzingis stays healthy, do people understand what you're dealing with? The reason I'm so upset that the Mavs stole him from the Knicks
is because you have a substance abuse issue and you're mentally unstable. That's why you're so upset, allegedly.
He is 7'3" with a pure shot, can put the ball on the floor, defend the rim, defend out in space. He's already a totally elite defender, and his offense is still getting better.
He's an elite defender. Porzingis has barely played 30 games as a relatively high-level NBA player. He had about a 30-game stretch where he seemed like he was going to make a modicum of an impact. We found out what happened. His body is fragile.
Max, let me say Porzingis has the chance to be the best player in basketball, period.
Max Kellerman, the master of hyperbole.
Oh my God. That's
But this is why he's on this show, because this show is called First Take, and he's a hot take artist.
This is what we're going to say about Luka. This was it. He's too good to tank, right?
You don't really believe that.
If he plays on the court,
Molly Karam called him out. She said, "You don't really believe that."
Have we ever said that about Porzingis? That if Porzingis were to play 38 minutes a night, that magically, all of a sudden, the Knicks would be in a position to win?
When's the last time we said that about a 19-year-old? Too good to tank. The names get really big.
He is special. He is different. When I was in Denver last year and the GMs were talking, and I'm from Arizona, DeAndre Ayton, I was like, DeAndre Ayton is David Robinson. Well, yeah, mind you, he's only 19 years old and he's going to be fine. But I was like, how can you guys say that this European kid is going to be better than a guy that looks and feels like he's going to be the next David Robinson? I am actually kind of sold.
Real quick, guys, we only have...
Well, you have to be sold. He's been very impactful. Luka Doncic has been great as a rookie thus far. So the real issue is going to be, what level of growth does he have from this season to next season? And they're still making a playoff run. They have an outside chance, an extremely outside chance of making the playoffs this year, but they're still in it, so you never know what he's going to do. But anyway, that's basically it on that. I do believe that Doncic will be the quote-unquote alpha even when Porzingis gets healthy. But if they have a functional relationship as teammates, they're going to feed off one another. For Dallas to have a chance to win a championship, both of those players are going to have to average somewhere around 25 points per game, and they're going to have teammates that buy in. But any players who are either drafted by or signed to the Dallas Mavericks are going to have to buy into the Luka hype. They're going to have to buy into the understanding that you're strictly there to get rebounds, play defense, and hit wide open threes. That's it. You're not there to dribble the basketball. The only player that's going to be allowed to dribble the basketball extensively will be Luka Doncic. He has to get all the shine. They're all in on the Luka Doncic experience. That's the bottom line to that. And Kristaps Porzingis might not like that too much himself after a period of time, so it's something to watch. But anyway, peace.